Jake Martinez walked into the huge cafeteria and stopped. His mouth fell open. He had never seen anything like this place before. The room was bigger than 3 football fields put together. The ceiling stretched so high above him that he could barely see it. Hundreds of tables filled the space, and each table had students sitting around it. But these were not human students. Jake saw creatures with blue skin and 6 arms eating something that looked like purple soup. At another table, tall beings with feathers instead of hair picked at what might have been insects. Some students had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like they were made of living metal. This was the Galactic Academy, the most important school in the known universe. Students came here from every planet that belonged to the Galactic Federation. Jake was the first human student ever accepted to this place. He held his food tray tighter and looked around. Where was he supposed to sit? Back on Earth, picking a lunch table was simple. Here he had no idea what the rules were. Jake watched the other students for a few minutes. He noticed something strange. The different types of aliens always sat with their own kind. The blue 6-armed students sat together. The feathered students had their own section. The metal-looking beings kept to themselves. Nobody mixed with anybody else. Jake picked up some food that looked safe to eat and started walking between the tables. He needed to find somewhere to sit, but every table seemed to belong to a different group. As he walked, he heard voices talking in languages he did not understand. Some students pointed at him and whispered. A few laughed. Jake tried to ignore them, but his face felt hot with embarrassment. Then he saw her. At a table in the far corner of the cafeteria sat a girl who looked about his age. She had 4 arms instead of 2, and her skin was clear like crystal. Tiny lights seemed to move under her skin, making her glow softly. She ate alone. Jake watched as 3 bird-like students approached her table. They spoke to each other in chirping sounds, then looked at the crystal girl and shook their heads. They walked away to find another table. A few minutes later, 2 blue students walked toward the same table. When they saw the crystal girl sitting there, they stopped. One of them said something that sounded angry. They turned around and left. This happened 3 more times. Different students would walk toward the table, see the crystal girl, and go somewhere else. Nobody wanted to sit near her. Jake felt sorry for her. He knew what it was like to eat alone. In high school, he had been the quiet kid who sat by himself most days. It was not fun. He made a decision. Jake walked across the cafeteria toward the corner table. The crystal girl looked up as he got closer. Her eyes were large and silver, and they seemed surprised to see him coming her way. Jake did not say anything. He just pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. He placed his tray on the table and started eating. The girl stared at him. Her 4 hands stopped moving. She looked confused, like she could not believe what was happening. Jake took a bite of his food and looked around the cafeteria. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching him. Students at other tables had stopped eating. They pointed at him and whispered to each other. A group of tall, thin students with green skin stood up from their table. They walked over to Jake and the crystal girl. The leader of the group was taller than the others. He had yellow markings on his face. Human. The tall student said in perfect English. You should not sit there. Jake looked up at him. Why not? That is Princess Zarathus of the Veltar Empire. Her people are dangerous. They are warriors who love to fight. Many believe she is here to spy on us. Jake glanced at the crystal girl. Princess Zarathus. She was looking down at her food now, and the lights under her skin seemed dimmer. She looks like she just wants to eat lunch, Jake said. The tall student leaned closer. Her father started a war that killed millions of his own people. The apple does not fall far from the tree, as you humans say. Maybe, Jake said. But she is not her father. The green student stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head and walked away with his friends. Jake went back to eating. After a few minutes, he noticed that Princess Zarathus was looking at him again. Why? She asked quietly. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Why what? Jake asked. Why did you sit here? Everyone else runs away from me. Jake thought about this. I guess because you looked lonely. And I know what that feels like. She tilted her head to one side. You are not afraid of me. Should I be? Most people think so. Jake looked at her 4 hands, her crystal skin, and her glowing silver eyes. She was different from him, but she did not seem scary. She seemed sad. What do you think? He asked. Are you dangerous? Princess Zarathus was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, I try not to be. They ate the rest of their meal in comfortable silence. Jake noticed that she was very careful with her food, cutting everything into small, neat pieces. Her 4 hands moved like she was dancing. When they finished eating, Jake stood up and picked up his tray. "Will you?" Princess Zarathus started to say, then stopped. "Will I what? Will you sit here again tomorrow?" Jake smiled. "Sure, same time." She nodded, and for the first time she smiled back. When she smiled, the lights under her skin grew brighter. As Jake walked away from the table, he heard students talking about him. Some sounded angry. Others sounded worried. A few sounded impressed. "That human is either very brave or very stupid," someone said. "He will regret this," said another voice. "Did you see her smile?" "I have never seen a Veltar smile before." Jake ignored them all. He had made a friend today, and that felt good. It did not matter what anyone else thought. That night in his small room, Jake looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home planet. He wondered what his family would think if they knew he had eaten lunch with an alien princess. His mother had always told him to be kind to people who seemed lonely. She said that sometimes one small act of kindness could change everything. Jake did not know it yet, but his mother was right. His simple choice to sit at that table would change not just his life and Princess Zarathus's life, but the future of the entire galaxy. All because he decided to be kind to someone who ate lunch alone. The next day, Jake went to the cafeteria at the same time. He got his food and walked straight to the corner table where Princess Zarathus sat alone. She looked up when she saw him coming. Her silver eyes seemed to light up with happiness. "You came back," she said softly. "I said I would," Jake replied, sitting down across from her. This time they talked while they ate. Jake learned that Princess Zarathus was studying something called quantum mechanics. She was trying to understand how energy moved through space. "What about you?" she asked. "I study how different aliens think and act," Jake said. "My teachers on Earth thought it would help humans get along with other species." "That is a good thing to study," she said. "Many wars start because people do not understand each other." Jake noticed that when she talked about war, her lights grew dim again. He decided to change the subject. "How many languages do you speak?" he asked. 17, she said. "How many do you speak?" "Just 2. English and some Spanish." "You are really smart," Princess Zarathus looked surprised. "You think I am smart?" "Of course. 17 languages is amazing." She smiled, and Jake realized that maybe people did not tell her nice things very often. They ate together every day for a week. Each day, Jake learned something new about her. She loved to read books about stars and planets. She was afraid of small flying insects. She had never tasted chocolate before Jake shared some with her. Other students still stared at them, but Jake stopped caring. Princess Zarathus was becoming his friend. On the 8th day, something changed. Jake walked into his advanced physics class and saw a list on the wall. It was for lab partners. Students had to work in pairs on a big project. Jake found his name on the list. Next to it was another name, Princess Zarathus. He looked around the classroom and saw her sitting in the back corner. She was reading the list too. When their eyes met, she looked nervous. "Great," said a voice behind Jake. "Just great." Jake turned around. 3 students were looking at the list. One was a bird-like creature with blue feathers. Another looked like a cat that walked on 2 legs. The third had green skin and no hair. "Why did they put the human with the princess?" asked the cat-like student. "Maybe they want to see what happens when something explodes," said the green student. They all laughed. Jake felt angry, but he did not say anything. He walked over to Princess Zarathus. "Looks like we are partners," he said. "Are you okay with that?" she asked. "I understand if you want to ask for a different partner." "Why would I want that?" "Because working with me might make the other students dislike you more than they already do." Jake sat down next to her. "I don't care what they think. Besides, you are probably the smartest person in this class." Princess Zarathus looked down at her desk. "My father always said that being smart was not enough. He said I was too soft to be a real leader. What do you think?" Jake asked. "I think there are different ways to be strong," she said quietly. Their teacher, Dr. Ryan Blake, was a human who had been at the academy for 5 years. He was one of the few teachers who was always fair to every student, no matter what species they were. "Your project," Dr. Blake announced to the class, "is to create a new type of energy shield. Something that has never been built before. You have 4 weeks." Jake looked at Princess Zarathus. "Any ideas?" Her eyes lit up. "Actually, yes. What if we could make a shield that learns? What do you mean? Most shields are the same all the time. But what if we made one that could change based on what kind of attack it faces? It could get stronger in the right places and use less energy in places that do not need protection. Jake stared at her. That is brilliant. They spent the next hour talking about how to build such a shield. Princess Zarathus knew all about energy patterns and force fields. Jake had ideas about how to make the learning part work. Other students kept looking at them and whispering. Finally, one group moved their table as far away from Jake and Princess Zarathus as possible. "We cannot work near them," said the Bluebird student. "What if the princess loses her temper? Veltar are known for their violent anger. I heard she killed someone once," whispered the cat-like student. Jake had heard enough. He stood up and walked over to their table. "Excuse me," he said politely. "I could not help but hear what you said about my partner." The three students looked uncomfortable. "Have any of you actually talked to Princess Zarathus?" Jake asked. "We do not need to," said the green student. "Everyone knows about the Veltar. Everyone knows stories," Jake said. "But stories are not always true. She has been nothing but kind and smart and helpful. Maybe you should judge her by her actions, not by what other people tell you." "Her father started a civil war," said the bird student. "She is not her father," Jake said firmly. "Just like you are not your father. If someone judged you only by what your parents did, would that be fair?" The three students looked at each other but did not answer. Jake walked back to Princess Zarathus. She had heard everything. "You did not have to do that," she said. "Yes, I did," Jake replied. "Friends stand up for each other. Is that what we are? Friends? I hope so." Princess Zarathus smiled, and this time her whole body seemed to glow brighter. They worked on their project every day after class. Princess Zarathus showed Jake how to work with energy equations that made his head spin. Jake helped her think of new ways to solve problems. By the end of the second week, they had built something amazing. Their energy shield could indeed learn and adapt. It was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Dr. Blake came to look at their work. He studied their shield for a long time without saying anything. "This is incredible," he finally said. "How did you think of this?" Jake thought of the learning part, Princess Zarathus said quickly. "I just worked out the math, and Princess Zarathus figured out how to make it actually work," Jake added. "I just had the idea," Dr. Blake smiled. "You make a good team." Other students began to notice their project too. Some seemed impressed, others seemed jealous. On Friday of that week, Jake was walking back to his room when three students blocked his path. They were all bigger than him and they did not look friendly. "Human," said the largest one, who had gray skin like stone. "We need to talk." "Okay," Jake said calmly. "What about?" "You are making a mistake spending time with the Veltar princess. Her people are killers. She is dangerous." "She seems pretty safe to me," Jake said. "You are too stupid to see the truth," said another student. "She is using you. When she gets what she wants, she will hurt you." Jake took a step forward. "What exactly do you think she wants from me?" "Information about humans, about Earth. She is a spy." Jake almost laughed. "A spy? She spends all her time studying physics and eating lunch. If she is a spy, she is really bad at it." The gray student grabbed Jake's arm. "This is not funny, human. We are trying to protect you." "I do not need protection from my friend," Jake said. He pulled his arm free. "Friend?" The third student spit on the ground. "The Veltar do not have friends. They have enemies and victims." Jake looked at all three of them. "Have any of you ever actually talked to her? Spent time with her? Or are you just repeating things you heard from other people?" They did not answer. "I thought so," Jake said. "Maybe you should try getting to know someone before you decide they are evil." He walked around them and continued toward his room. Behind him, he heard one of them say, "He will learn the hard way." That night, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about what the students had said. Was he being naive? Was Princess Zarathus really dangerous? But then he remembered her gentle smile, the way she carefully cut her food, and how excited she got when talking about science. He remembered how she always said please and thank you, and how she never said anything mean about the students who avoided her. Jake made up his mind. He would judge Princess Zarathus by her actions, not by what other people said about her species. And her actions showed him that she was a good person. He just hoped he was right. 3 weeks after Jake and Princess Zarathus became lab partners, Dr. Blake made an announcement that changed everything. The Academy will hold its yearly diplomatic summit simulation, he told the class. Students will be put into random teams. Each team must solve a big problem that affects many star systems. Jake felt nervous. Random teams meant he might not be with Princess Zarathus. The problem this year, Dr. Blake continued, is about trade routes. Several planets need resources that other planets have, but old enemies do not want to work together. Your job is to find a solution that makes everyone happy. Dr. Blake pulled names from a box. When he called Jake's name, he felt his stomach tighten. Jake Martinez will lead Team 7, Dr. Blake said. His team members are Princess Zarathus of Veltar, Kevin Liu from Centauri Station, Maria Santos also from Centauri Station, and Drakmor from the Draconian Empire. Jake looked around the room. Princess Zarathus smiled at him, but she looked worried too. Kevin and Maria were small, quiet students who always seemed scared of everything. Drakmor was a big lizard-like creature who never talked to anyone. Other students whispered among themselves. Jake heard some of them laughing. Team 7 is doomed, someone said quietly. Who put the human in charge? Asked another voice. They have the crazy princess and the angry dragon. They will never agree on anything. After class, Jake's team met in a small room to talk about their assignment. Kevin and Maria sat close together on one side of the table. Drakmor sat alone on the other side. Princess Zarathus sat next to Jake. So, Jake said, trying to sound confident, what do you all think about this problem? Kevin spoke first, but his voice was so quiet Jake could barely hear him. The Centauri system needs metal ore from the Draconis worlds, but our people have been enemies for 300 years. My people do not forget insults, Drakmor said in a deep, growling voice. The Centaurians stole our ships during the war. We owe them nothing. Maria looked like she might cry. But without the ore, our mining stations will shut down. Millions of people will lose their jobs. That is not our problem, Drakmor said. Jake could see this was going to be difficult. What if we look at this differently? Instead of thinking about old problems, what if we focus on what everyone needs now? The Draconians need energy crystals, Princess Zarathus said quietly. Their old mines are empty. Drakmor stared at her with his yellow eyes. How do you know that? I read the background information. The Zephyrian Empire has energy crystals, but they need food supplies that the Centauri worlds grow. Jake started to see a pattern. So the Centaurians need metal, the Draconians need energy crystals, and the Zephyrians need food. What if they all traded with each other? It is not that simple, Kevin said. The Zephyrians and Draconians also hate each other. Everyone hates everyone, Maria added sadly. Jake thought about this. On Earth, countries that had been enemies sometimes became friends when they found ways to help each other. What if we created a neutral place where they could meet? Jake suggested. Somewhere that does not belong to any of their empires? Princess Zarathus's eyes lit up. Like a space station at the edge of all three territories? That could work, Drakmor said slowly. But who would control this station? All three groups together, Jake said. They would share ownership and make decisions together. For the next 2 days, the team worked on their plan. Jake was surprised to learn that each team member had useful ideas. Kevin and Maria knew a lot about trade and economics. Drakmor understood military security. Princess Zarathus was good at seeing problems before they happened, but other teams were working against them. On the third day, Jake overheard a conversation between leaders of Teams 2 and 5. We need to make sure Team 7 fails, said the leader of Team 2, a tall blue student with 6 arms. Having a Veltar princess in the final round would be embarrassing for the Academy. Agreed, said the leader of Team 5, one of the bird-like students. And that human is too naive to see how dangerous she is. Jake felt angry, but he did not say anything. Instead, he went back to his team and told them what he had heard. They are going to work together against us, he said. I expected this, Princess Zarathus said sadly. People always assume the worst about my people. Then we will just have to be better than they expect, Jake said. On the day of the simulation, all the teams gathered in the Academy's big auditorium. Each team had to present their solution to a panel of teachers who pretended to be representatives from different planets. Team 2 went first. They suggested that the strongest empire should control all trade routes. The weaker empires would have to pay taxes to use them. Team 5 suggested dividing the galaxy into zones where each empire could trade only with certain partners. Other teams had similar ideas. Most of them involved one group being more powerful than others. Finally, it was Team 7's turn. Jake stood up, his heart beating fast. "Our solution is different," he began. "Instead of trying to decide who wins and who loses, we think everyone should win." He explained their idea for a shared space station. Princess Zarathis showed diagrams of how the station would work. Kevin and Maria explained the economic benefits. Drakmore talked about security. The teacher judges asked hard questions, but the team had good answers for all of them. Then one of the judges created a crisis. "Breaking news," the judge announced. Team 3's empire claims that Team 5 stole their cargo ships. They demand that Team 5 be punished. What does Team 7 suggest? The room became very quiet. This was the kind of situation that often led to wars. Jake looked at his teammates. They all seemed worried. "We suggest a joint investigation," Jake said finally. "Teams 3 and 5 should work together to find out what really happened. During the investigation, both teams should share their resources equally. But what if Team 5 really did steal the ships?" asked a judge. "Then they should return them and pay for any damage," Princess Zarathis said. "But if the investigation shows they are innocent, Team 3 should apologize and help repair any damage their accusation caused." "And who would lead this investigation?" asked another judge. "A neutral team," Drakmore said. "One that has no reason to favor either side." The judges looked impressed, but Jake could see that Teams 3 and 5 were angry. "This is ridiculous," said the leader of Team 3. "You cannot trust thieves to investigate themselves, and you cannot trust accusers to judge fairly," Princess Zarathis replied calmly. The leader of Team 5 stood up. "Why should we accept being investigated by aliens who do not understand our culture?" Princess Zarathis stood up too. Her crystal skin began to glow brighter. "I know what it feels like to be judged by others who do not know you," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I know what it is like when people assume you are guilty, because of who your family is or what your people did in the past." The room became completely silent, but I also know that the only way to build trust is to be willing to prove your innocence, even when it is unfair that you have to, she continued. And the only way to find truth is to look at facts, not feelings. She paused and looked around the room. "My father taught me that strength comes from forcing others to obey you. But I have learned something different here. Real strength comes from finding ways for everyone to succeed together." When she sat down, nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, one of the judges said, "Team 7's solution is accepted." "The simulation is complete." Jake could hardly believe it. They had won. After the other students left, Dr. Blake came over to Team 7. "That was excellent work," he said. "You found a solution that nobody else even tried to find." "Princess Zarathis gave the best speech," Jake said. "We all worked together," she replied. "That is why it worked," Dr. Blake smiled. "You might be right about that." As they walked out of the auditorium, Jake felt proud of his team. They had shown that cooperation was stronger than competition, but he had no idea that bigger challenges were coming soon. 2 days after Team 7 won the simulation, everything changed. Jake was eating breakfast when alarms started ringing throughout the academy. Red lights flashed on the walls. Students looked around nervously. A voice came over the speakers. "All students report to the main auditorium immediately. This is not a drill." Jake grabbed his things and hurried to the auditorium. He found Princess Zarathis already there, sitting alone as usual. But this time she looked scared. "What is happening?" Jake asked as he sat next to her. "I think it has something to do with my homeworld," she said quietly. "I can feel it." Captain Lisa Park, the human military officer at the academy, walked onto the stage. Her face was serious. "Students," she began, "I have received news from the Veltar system. The civil war there has started again. Princess Zarathis's father has declared that all Veltar citizens must return home immediately to fight for their empire." Jake felt his stomach drop. He looked at Princess Zarathis. Her face had gone pale and the lights under her skin were flickering. "Furthermore," Captain Park continued, "several major galactic powers are choosing sides in this conflict. This could become a much larger war if it is not stopped quickly." Students began whispering to each other. Many of them looked at Princess Zarathis with fear and anger. "Any Veltar citizens at this academy have 48 hours to decide. Return home to fight or be declared traitors to your species," Captain Park said. "That is all." As students left the auditorium, Jake heard them talking. She will have to go back and fight, said one voice. Good, I never trusted her anyway, said another. What if she is a spy after all? Jake walked with Princess Zarathis back to the dormitory area. She had not said a word since Captain Park's announcement. Are you okay? Jake asked. She stopped walking and looked at him with her silver eyes. My father wants me to come home and lead his armies. He thinks I will help him win the war. What do you want to do? I do not want to fight my own people, she said. But I also cannot support what my father is doing. He is hurting innocent civilians to force them to join his side. So what will you happen if you do not go back? I will be declared a traitor. My people will hate me forever, and I will never be able to go home again. Jake did not know what to say. This was much bigger than cafeteria tables and lab projects. That evening, Jake went to Princess Zarathis's room to check on her. When she opened the door, he could see that someone had written ugly words on her wall with red paint. Who did this? Jake asked angrily. It does not matter, she said. They are afraid. Fear makes people do cruel things. Jake helped her clean the paint off the wall. While they worked, she told him about her home planet. Veltar used to be beautiful, she said. We had crystal cities that reached up to the clouds. Our people were artists and scientists. But then my father decided we needed to be warriors instead. What started the Civil War? My father wanted to attack the planets around us. He said we needed more resources and more space. But many of our people disagreed. They said we should trade with other planets, not fight them. Princess Zarathis sat down on her bed and stared at her hands. When I spoke against his plan, he said I was weak. He said I did not understand what it meant to be Veltar. So he sent me here, hoping I would learn to be more like him. But you did not change your mind? No. Being here has shown me that different species can work together. Look at our team in the simulation. We all came from different worlds, but we found a way to help everyone. The next day was worse. Jake found Princess Zarathis in the library trying to study. But other students kept walking by her table and saying mean things. Traitor, whispered one student. Coward, said another. Go home and fight. Or leave the academy, said a third. Jake had heard enough. He stood up and spoke loudly enough for everyone in the library to hear. She is not a traitor or a coward, he said. She is someone who refuses to hurt innocent people. If that makes her weak, then maybe we need more weak people in the galaxy. Several students glared at him, but they stopped bothering Princess Zarathis. That afternoon, Captain Park called Jake to her office. Sit down, Jake, she said. I need to talk to you about Princess Zarathis. What about her? For security reasons, I think you should keep your distance from her. This situation with the Civil War is very dangerous. We do not know what might happen. You think she is dangerous? I think the situation is dangerous. People are scared and angry. They might do something stupid. Jake thought about this. What if I do not want to stay away from her? Captain Park sighed. Jake, I know you think you are helping her, but sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them handle their problems alone. She should not have to be alone right now. Jake said, that is not your decision to make. Jake left Captain Park's office feeling frustrated. Everyone wanted him to abandon Princess Zarathis when she needed friends the most. That evening, Jake made a choice. Instead of staying away, he organized a study group in his room. He invited Princess Zarathis and anyone else who wanted to come. To his surprise, several students showed up. Kevin and Maria came from his simulation team. Drakmore came too, though he sat in the corner and did not say much. Even Dr. Blake appeared at the door. Mind if I join you? Dr. Blake asked. Of course, Jake said. They talked about the Civil War and what it meant for the galaxy. Dr. Blake asked good questions that made everyone think. What would you do if your home planet was at war? He asked the group. I would want to help my people, said Kevin. But what if helping them meant hurting innocent people? Asked Maria. That is the hard question, Dr. Blake said. Sometimes doing the right thing means making difficult choices. Princess Zarathis had been quiet during most of the discussion. Finally, she spoke. I have decided, she said. I will not go back to fight for my father. I cannot help him hurt people who just want to live in peace. Even if it means you can never go home? Dr. Blake asked gently. Even then, she said, some things are more important than going home. Jake felt proud of her, but he also felt worried. What would happen to her now? They got their answer the next morning. Jake was walking to class when he heard shouting from the direction of the dormitories. He ran toward the noise and found a crowd of students gathered outside Princess Zarathis's room. Through the crowd, Jake could see 3 Veltar warriors in black armor. They were much bigger than Princess Zarathis, and they looked very angry. "You will come with us now," one of them was saying. "Your father commands it." "I will not," Princess Zarathis replied. She was standing in her doorway blocking their path. "I am a student here. I have done nothing wrong. You have dishonored our people by refusing to fight. You will return home and face judgment." Jake pushed through the crowd. "Hey," he shouted. "Leave her alone." The 3 warriors turned to look at him. One of them laughed. "The human wants to protect the traitor princess," he said. "How amusing." "She is not a traitor," Jake said. "She just does not want to hurt innocent people." "Innocence is a luxury we cannot afford," the warrior replied. "Stand aside, human." "No." The warrior stepped closer to Jake. He was twice Jake's size and covered in armor that looked like it could stop bullets. "You are brave, little human, but also very stupid." Jake's heart was beating fast, but he did not move. "Maybe. But I am not going to let you kidnap my friend." Other students had started to gather around them. Some looked scared. Others looked excited, like they wanted to see a fight. Just then, Academy security arrived. Captain Park was with them, along with several armed guards. "What is going on here?" Captain Park demanded. "We are taking the princess back to Veltar space," the lead warrior said. "This is a family matter." "This is Academy space," Captain Park replied firmly. "And Princess Zarathis is a student here under our protection." The warrior's hand moved toward his weapon. "Do not interfere, human. This does not concern you." That was when Princess Zarathis surprised everyone. She stepped forward and placed herself between Jake and the warriors. "If you want to take me," she said calmly, "you will have to go through him first. And I will not let that happen." Her 4 hands moved so fast that Jake barely saw them. Suddenly, the lead warrior was on the ground, his weapon flying across the hallway. The other 2 warriors reached for their weapons, but Princess Zarathis was faster. In less than 10 seconds, all 3 warriors were on the floor, unconscious but breathing. The crowd of students stared in shock. Jake had never seen anyone move that fast. Princess Zarathis turned to look at him. "Are you hurt?" "No," Jake said, still amazed by what he had just seen. "Are you?" "I am fine." She looked down at the unconscious warriors. "But this will not end here. My father will send more." Captain Park stepped forward. "Princess, I think it is time for you to make a choice. You can go with them voluntarily, or you can stay here and accept that this war will follow you." Princess Zarathis looked at Jake, then at the crowd of students who were still staring at her. "I choose to stay," she said, "and I choose to try to stop this war before it gets worse." Jake smiled. His friend was braver than any warrior he had ever heard of, but he also knew that the real danger was just beginning. After the fight with the 3 warriors, everything at the academy changed. Students who had ignored Princess Zarathis now stared at her with new respect. Others seemed more afraid than ever. Jake found her in the library that evening, reading about peace negotiations throughout galactic history. "Planning to stop a war?" he asked, sitting down next to her. "Trying to," she said, "but I do not know how. My people have been fighting for so long they have forgotten how to talk to each other." Jake thought about this. What if someone helped them remember? Who would do that? Both sides hate outsiders interfering in Veltar business. What about an outsider who chose to stand with a Veltar princess when everyone else ran away? Princess Zarathis looked at him with surprise. "You want to come with me to Veltar space?" "I want to help you stop this war," Jake said. Maybe a human perspective could help. Sometimes it takes someone from outside to see solutions that people inside cannot see. "Jake, this is not a school simulation. Real people are dying. Real ships are being destroyed. If we fail, we might die too. And if we do nothing, the war will spread to other systems. More people will die." Princess Zarathis was quiet for a long time. "Why would you risk your life for my people?" Jake thought about the question. "Because they are your people, and you are my friend. And because sometimes one small action can change everything." The next morning, Jake went to Captain Park's office. "I want to request permission to travel to Veltar space as a diplomatic observer," he said. Captain Park stared at him like he had lost his mind. "Absolutely not. It is far too dangerous. Captain, this war could spread throughout the galaxy. Humans will be affected too. Maybe I can help prevent that. You are a student, not a diplomat. I am a human who has learned to work with aliens that other people fear," Jake said. Is that not what diplomacy is? Captain Park was quiet for several minutes. Finally, she said, I will need to talk to Dr. Blake and the Academy Council. Do not do anything stupid while I am considering this. 2 days later, Captain Park called Jake back to her office. Dr. Blake was there too. The council has agreed to let you go, Captain Park said, but only as an official observer representing both humanity and the Academy. Princess Zarathis will be your cultural guide and translator. Really? Jake could hardly believe it. Do not make us regret this decision, Dr. Blake said seriously. You will be representing not just yourself but all humans in the Academy. I understand. One more thing, Captain Park added. A human ship will take you to the edge of Veltar space, but you will have to travel the rest of the way in a Veltar ship. Once you are there, we cannot protect you. Jake felt nervous but also excited. When do we leave? Tomorrow. The journey to Veltar space took 5 days. Jake and Princess Zarathis spent the time preparing. She taught him about Veltar culture and language. He shared ideas about negotiation and conflict resolution. The key is to find something both sides want more than they want to fight, Jake said. My people want honor, Princess Zarathis said, but both sides think they are fighting for honor. Then maybe we need to show them a different kind of honor. When they arrived at the edge of Veltar space, they transferred to a small Veltar scout ship. The pilot was a young warrior named Captain Veldar, who supported Princess Zarathis. The situation is bad, he told them as they flew toward the main battle zone. Both sides are exhausted, but neither will admit it. They keep fighting because they do not know how to stop without losing face. What do the regular people want? Jake asked. Peace, Captain Veldar said immediately. They are tired of war. But the leaders on both sides say that peace means surrender, and surrender means dishonor, Princess Zarathis added. Jake had an idea, but he needed to see the situation first. When they reached the Veltar homeworld, Jake was shocked. The crystal cities that Princess Zarathis had described were mostly rubble. The beautiful planet looked like a wasteland. How long has this been going on? Jake asked. 3 years of heavy fighting, Captain Veldar replied. But the conflict has been building for much longer. They landed at a neutral space station between the two main fleets. Representatives from both sides had agreed to meet, but only because Princess Zarathis had requested it. Jake's first meeting was with General Karthos, leader of the rebel forces who opposed Princess Zarathis's father. You are the human who befriended the princess, General Karthos said. He was old and tired-looking, with scars covering his crystal skin. I am, Jake said. Why should we trust you? Humans have never cared about Veltar affairs before. Because someone who cares about Princess Zarathis must also care about her people, Jake replied. And because sometimes an outsider can see things that people inside the conflict cannot. General Karthos studied Jake carefully. What do you see? I see 2 groups of people who both love their planet and want what is best for their families. I see leaders who are afraid that making peace will look like giving up. And what do you suggest? Jake took a deep breath. I suggest that instead of trying to decide who wins and who loses, you work together to rebuild what the war has destroyed. Work with the enemy? General Karthos sounded angry. Work with fellow Veltar who want their planet to be beautiful again, Jake said gently. The next day, Jake met with Princess Zarathis's father, Emperor Zalthis. He was bigger and more intimidating than his daughter, with darker crystal skin and cold silver eyes. So you are the human who corrupted my daughter, the Emperor said. I am the human who learned from your daughter, Jake replied. She taught me that strength comes from protecting people, not conquering them. Protecting people sometimes requires conquest, does it? Jake asked. Your planet is destroyed. Your people are dying. Your enemies are also your own people. What has conquest achieved? Emperor Zalthis was quiet for a moment. What would you have me do? Surrender to rebels who want to destroy everything I have built? I would have you think about what your daughter asked me when we first met, Jake said. She asked why I sat with her when everyone else ran away. Do you know what I told her? Tell me. I told her that she looked lonely, and I knew what that felt like. Maybe your people are lonely too. Maybe they need their leaders to sit with them instead of fighting over them. The Emperor stared at Jake for a long time without speaking. Over the next week, Jake, Princess Zarathis, and Captain Veldar worked to bring small groups from both sides together. They started with people who were tired of fighting. Engineers who wanted to rebuild cities, doctors who wanted to heal the wounded, teachers who wanted to educate children. These meetings were not about politics or military strategy. They were about practical problems that both sides faced. "Our water purification systems are damaged," said one engineer from the rebel side. "Ours too," said an engineer from the Emperor's side. "But we have spare parts that you need. And we have power crystals that you need," the first engineer replied. Slowly, practical cooperation began to replace political conflict. People who had been enemies started working together to solve problems that affected everyone. Jake suggested something he remembered from Earth's history, a truth and reconciliation process where both sides would admit their mistakes and focus on healing instead of punishment. "It is not about forgetting what happened," Jake explained to a mixed group of leaders. "It is about choosing to build something better instead of destroying what is left." Princess Zarathis supported the idea. "My father taught me that admitting weakness is shameful," she said. "But I have learned that admitting mistakes takes courage, and courage is the highest form of honor." Her words impressed both sides. Here was the Emperor's own daughter, saying that honor could come from honesty instead of victory. The breakthrough came when Emperor Zalthis and General Karthos agreed to meet, face-to-face for the first time in 2 years. Jake was allowed to attend as an observer. The two leaders sat across from each other in a small room, their crystal skin glowing with tension. "I will not surrender," the Emperor said. "Neither will I," General Karthos replied. Jake stood up. "What if neither of you has to surrender? What if you both choose to lead your people toward something better?" "Explain," the Emperor said. "Instead of one side winning and one side losing, what if both sides win by working together to rebuild Veltar? You could share power in a new government. General Karthos could lead the rebuilding efforts. Emperor Zalthis could lead the defense forces. Princess Zarathis could lead the diplomatic efforts to restore relationships with other planets." Both leaders looked skeptical. "It has been done before," Jake continued. "On my planet, enemies became allies when they realized they wanted the same things: safety for their families, prosperity for their people, and respect from their neighbors." Princess Zarathis spoke up. "Father General Karthos, you both love our planet. You both want our people to be strong and proud. You just disagree about how to achieve those goals. What if you combined your approaches?" Jake suggested. "Use the general's focus on justice and equality with the Emperor's focus on strength and order." The two leaders looked at each other, then at Princess Zarathis, then at Jake. "This human has given us much to think about," General Karthos said finally. "Indeed," agreed the Emperor. It took 3 more weeks of careful negotiations, but